Hello and welcome back to the Grapple Theory podcast. Thanks so much once again for joining us now this week ahead of Super Strong Style, the annual huge progress weekender, probably the biggest show of the year, I think it's fair to say. We've got a very special guest joining us. He's going to be part of the Super Strong Style tournament. He was part of the Atlas tournament weekender as well, and he's just made his debut on AEW Rampage. You may know who I'm talking about as I gave you those hints, but we didn't actually talk about his AEW Rampage debut because it was filmed before that happened. But we are going to talk about Strong Style. We're going to talk about his career, leaving WWE, rejoining the indie circuit, how that's been for him, and his ambitions now moving on for the future, which start next week at the Super Strong Style tournament at Progress Wrestling. So it's my pleasure to introduce this week on the podcast, Big Damo Mackle. Damo, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's great to have you on. Let's start with what we're all thinking of. It's Super Strong Style next week. You must be really looking forward to getting back to the UK, getting back to Progress, and really trying to make a name for yourself in that tournament with the Progress fans.
Absolutely. I mean, so Strong Style, I think that was my first, my debut of Progress was actually Super Strong Style in, I think it was 2015.
Yeah, I think so, if I did my research right, yeah.
I'm not a fountain of knowledge anymore, but no, honestly, so I had so much fun because I remember the first time I ever walked into the Progress locker room, and I've said this a couple of times recently, but I needed to reiterate it because I was going into some great locker rooms all across the UK, Europe, wherever else I was going, but the first time I was in Super Strong Style, it was literally like a who's who of people who I loved watching. So it was incredible timing for me, like, because Rampage Brown, Dave Massive, all these lads who I genuinely adored. And then even guys like Ciampa and stuff like that, who I ended up, wrestling quite a lot actually, and spent a lot of time with in NXT. So it was it's a crazy bunch of lads who I ended up being there with. And I remember thinking, this is something special, and it was really cool. I got back to Progress there last month, and I got to do the Atlas tournament, and it was a lot of fun. Got in there with young man Luke Jacobs, who went all the way through and took the Atlas championship. Surprising us all, really, to be honest. But fair play to him. He did a hell of a job, and his matches, even after me, were incredible. And I was very lucky. I got to team up with my former Sanity teammate Axel Tischer, which was awesome. It was the first time we'd teamed up in over 3 years, and that was something special. A bit emotional for both of us actually, and it was I don't think one of the main problems in wrestling for you is you kind of more think about things after as opposed to at the time. You're always trying to get through your show, your event, and it was after I kind of realized, oh my god, that was actually really cool. So that was great to Progress. I like that to happen, and hopefully we can make that happen again, because I think if Axel and I, if we decided to do something like this on a more regular basis, I think we could be very successful as a tag team. So we're hoping that maybe we can do this again at some point. But yeah, as far as Super Strong Style goes, like for my own goals, my own singles aspirations, Progress is one of the places that for some reason, I just never managed to get over the finish line in. I've always seemed to, maybe it's a London thing, I'm not sure. Maybe it's, I'm not as accepted in the South. I'm not sure what it is. But no, so for me, there's a wrong there's a wrong I want to right, and that is especially prevalent in Super Strong Style, because as it was my debut in the company, and I feel it would be the perfect place for me to really announce myself in Progress Wrestling. So I'm very, very excited. I'm really pumped for it. I've been kind of getting ready for it, getting myself as primed as possible to possibly wrestle multiple times per day over the course of the weekend. Get my cardio levels a little higher, trying to get ready. They've just announced a few more of the lads who are going to be in the tournament. I just saw Robbie X got announced there. And Maggot, one of the WXW fellas, so like there's new people who I haven't worked with, who have seen or have been on shows with. So it's going to be very exciting to see. And then obviously old rivals of the likes of Swerve and stuff are there as well. So I'm very pumped for this tournament and the possibilities of who it could be against.
Absolutely. Well, there's loads you said there that I want to dissect. The first is with the tournament, like you say. Obviously, you wrestled in it a few years back before you signed with WWE. How does it feel now in terms of, I guess before then, like you sort of mentioned, in terms of how you got over in London? I suppose you were a bigger name back then up north back in 2015. So how does it feel now coming back down to Progress, even before this, like with that sort of WWE sway behind your name and going up against these these again new up and coming talents like in Atlas with Luke Jacobs and stuff, and helping giving them the rub and make seeing what the scene is like now.
I think like for me, like I think I was maybe more popular in Rev Pro and stuff like that, especially the style of wrestling that I was doing at the time was maybe just a touch more suited to Rev Pro. But coming back from WWE, like I think I've definitely increased my palette and increased my skill set, shall we say. So it's definitely like it's something to be very excited about walking into Progress, as you say, with a bunch of young up and comers, very hungry, talented fellas, lads who weren't even wrestling 6 years ago, 7 years ago. Whenever I first made it into Progress, and now they're ready to kick my ass. So it's definitely something very exciting. It's great. What I love seeing is a younger talent anyway, who are kind of learning from our mistakes and being able to take it to the next level, because that's the only way this business is going to exist in the future. Is that they're better than the ones before them. And there was a little down period, not going to lie, that there was a little down period, I guess, when all of us went to the WWE or to New Japan or whatever else. So it's really cool now that there's this whole new squad of lads coming through with super talent, super ability, and charismatic to boot. So, and as I said already, super hungry, which is even more frustrating for me. But no, out of all seriousness, like Luke was a great example. He was a fella, Luke Jacobs, who I'd seen on a Rev Pro show. I think he was working in a tag match, and he looked pretty good. So it was good, good to get in there with him, and he shocked the world. Like he got all the way through, beat myself, and beat Warren Banks, and beat Big Jonah in the final. So fair play to him. He announced himself that day, and I'm sure it's only going to be sky's the limit for Luke.
Yeah, I was going to say, facing him, could you tell that? Because we've had him on the show, and we've had a load of other people on the show talking about how he is sort of one of these young guns that's going to be, the next star of BritWres. Can you see that when you face him? Could you see that when you're in the ring with him?
There's no reason why he can't. Like the truth is, it's all up to him. He's in a position in his life where he's starting to get all the bookings that he needs to announce himself to the rest of the world, and he has to continually try and challenge himself and keep trying to improve. If he stays where he's at, then cool. He'll have some success for a while. But if he stays as hungry as I felt he was then sky's the limit for him. He's bulked up a lot since the first time I heard of him. So that's just something he needs to continually work with, and keep developing his skills. Don't ever think that you're done, because you're not. You're always learning. You're always trying to get better. You're always trying to improve. You need to go to the people who are the most experienced there. You need to ask them, what do I need to do to get to the next step? I got stuck a few times in my career where, maybe I thought it was pretty good, and I needed people to kick me in the ass or slap me in the face, and thankfully I met those people at the right time in my life, and I got to live out my dreams, and this is the thing for anybody who's going to follow in those kind of footsteps is don't ever think you're done, don't ever think it's over, because there's always going to be somebody younger and hungrier coming after you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, perfectly said. And you mentioned Axel as well. We actually had him on the show just before Atlas, and we were talking about if we could see you guys teaming up as you were both there. And he wouldn't give anything away there. I don't know if he knew at that point. I don't know if he knew that was the plan.
He wanted to win the bloody tournament, that's why.
He said he wanted to beat you in the final, and unfortunately that didn't happen. But we got to see that little Sanity reunion, like you said, which was really nice. And again, like you mentioned, that must have been really lovely to get back teaming with someone who you teamed with for so long in WWE, but on a different stage, in a different feeling, like on the indies.
Axel's literally like one of my best friends in the world. So like we put so many miles in together that you spend a lot of time together, and like I'm very lucky that he's one, a fantastic person, but two, he was a really good person to be on the road with as well. Like we're in simpatico, I guess. We worked really well together, like outside of the ring as well. Like this is the most important thing, because Axel being a vegan and me not, but we're still able to do all the things we want to do. We worked out like when we wanted to work out. We did everything together. Like I'm mad about football and he isn't, but we still managed to to spend hours and hours together. So, but honestly, like him leaving WWE was a real kick in the stones, because seeing him, I think it was maybe the most emotional I've been, and I think it was more emotional about Axel even than I was myself, because like he had to uproot and bring his family back to Germany, and we helped them move house and things like that, and it was like there's a part of that where you're like, oh damn, there's a finality to it, which sucked, because you don't know when the next time is you're going to see them, and like we got to know his wife and his child as well, and it's one of those things. It's the harshest part of the business, but I knew that he would land on his feet, because no matter what, Axel is an incredibly talented wrestler. Like I think he barely got to showcase that enough in the WWE. He did a bit in NXT UK. He got some great singles matches there at a time when sadly people weren't maybe watching it as much, like over COVID and stuff like that. But Axel's an incredible talent, and he's just killing it right now everywhere he goes. Like, he's got himself into the shape of his life, and like everything he does is gold. Like, I was watching him in that tag match, and I was just thinking, this guy's fucking incredible. And like, that's, and I've wrestled with him hundreds of times, you know what I mean? So, and he's still blowing me away. So, that's the testament to him as a wrestler, as a person. And I'm so glad that, like, he seems to have landed on his feet so well in Germany, and I'm sure he's delighted to be back there anyway for family reasons and everything else. But it's so important for Germany to have a leader like him available. It's so important for Europe to have him available, and I'm hoping that, like, I'll start seeing him everywhere I go, because he should be on all these shows. He should be on every show, because he's a great trainer. He's a great person to talk to anyway for youngsters and everything else. So, and wouldn't surprise me if he's champion of almost every company, but this time next year, because he's an incredible talent. But no, I can't say enough great things about Axel, but I do want to kick him in the face at some point, so I do need to get that across.
Well, I was going to say, because we asked him this, so it'd be unfair not to ask you this, because obviously, Nikki aside, who is still with WWE, the rest of Sanity are all back on the indies now. And I think, speaking personally and from fans that I know, we'd love to see an EY versus Axel versus Damo, like, sort of three-way match. I mean, like, how much would you like that to happen? Or is there a possibility of that happening on the indies somewhere?
Oh, I hope so. Like, I mean, I remember the first time I ever met EY, I wrestled him in TNA in January 2016. And, like, he was so giving and so friendly. He was just wonderful to work. And, like, that was the first time I ever met him. I'd met him, I think I'd met him fleetingly, maybe on a show years before that, but to actually spend time with him. And he was just such a wonderful fella. Like, and it was great that I ended up teaming with him and traveling with him and learning from him, because he was like, 15 years TV experience by that point. And it was just incredible for me, Axel, and Nikki, because, like, we had minimal TV experience, the ICWs, the Progresses, or WXWs and stuff like that were, a smaller level of television experience. So to have EY there being able to lead us was amazing. And EY's like such a talented wrestler and talker and everything. Like, he was just a leader across the board for us. He would also book the Airbnbs, so he would be on our adventures across America in some brilliant and some terrible Airbnbs. But he kept it very interesting for all of us. And he was, as I said to you before, he was very giving, because obviously with Axel being a vegan and stuff like that, we wanted to try and make sure that he was getting covered and he was being able to get what he needed from wherever we went. So, and obviously me watching football, so if a football game was on, somebody else would drive. So, I ended up loving traveling with the boys. I just said that about Axel, but it's the same for EY. So for us, potentially, team or to fight against each other would be absolutely amazing. Like, as I say, I wrestled EY when I wasn't, I was still trying to build a name for myself back then. Now, with the experience of television and everything else, it'd be great to do it again, either on TV or even just in front of a live crowd, because I think it'll be magical to get in there and kick his head in too. You know what I mean? It'll be a lot of fun for me. Because EY, honestly, like, EY is one of the most talented wrestlers on the planet. But he should have been an NXT champion, or he should have been a WWE champion. Like, it's just one of those things that I'm amazed didn't happen. When I look back, I'm like, they really could have used him here, they could have used him there. But that's the way of the world. It happens to so many people. But for us, it was incredible to learn under him. It was incredible to work with him. And honestly, like, I can't wait to see him again. It's been so long.
Again, yeah, like you say there, you mentioned it about EY, and you mentioned it about Axel as well, about how they probably in your mind, they sort of both deserve better with their booking over in WWE. And I think a lot of people would probably agree, and I think they probably say the same for yourself as well. So I guess with that being the case, like, coming back to the indies now, does it leave you with that hunger, that, like, point to prove, not necessarily to them, but, like, to yourself almost, in, like, this is how good I can be?
I think at first, honestly, like, when I first came onto the indies, like, I think it was the first time I'd had, like, kind of trepidation or nervousness, because, like, I haven't really been nervous in a long time. And, like, I remember I spoke to Shawn Michaels about this at NXT, and he was like, do you still get the jitters and stuff? And I said, no, because, like, I got to a point in my career where, like, things that are out of your control were out of your control, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I think that really helped me a lot in my own mindset as a person. But when things are in your control, things that you can do, then it's all on you to do your very best. being on the indies, that's exactly what it is. It's all going to be on me. It's nobody else's story I'm telling but my own. So like at first, like that was the first time I'd been nervous in so long, and I wrestled a fella called Terry Thatcher for OTT over in Dublin. And I was so lucky that it was him who came in with some cool ideas, and he's such a talented, incredible wrestler himself. And he's one of the lads who's really helped buoy up that Irish scene. It's growing like outrageous at the minute. Actually, they just put 2,000 people in a building there last month. So OTT are really killing it right now in Ireland. So it was great to get in there with Terry. And then the next night I was against Will Ospreay in the Aussie Open. So it was literally going from, you know, the nervousness of your first indie to, you're right in the deep end here with some of the best wrestlers on the planet. So, but it was a great experience for me. It was awesome because I was teaming with the Kings of the North. They're one of my favorite tag teams. They're one of my favorite tag teams to watch. But, you know, I love being on shows with them both. Like I've known them both for a long time. I accidentally ended up on Bonesaw's Stag Do many years ago. I don't even want to get into that story. But that's when I first met him and then Corbin as well.
That's for another time. That's for another podcast.
That is for another time. I don't even want to tell you sort of how bad that I ended up that night. I had such a great experience with those two lads. You know, anytime I was on shows with them. So it was great to be teaming with them. Like it was, and they're just so great with their act and their promos and stuff like that. So I'm glad that they've kind of burst out of the scene in Northern Ireland, because it's very difficult sometimes in those smaller countries. Like you can get kind of trapped a little bit, and you end up kind of being so good, but like not able to showcase it. But they've been able to get out there. The ICW in Progress, they're a great tag team, and I'd love to see them, you know, get out there worldwide because they're so talented.
Yeah.
But you know, for that to be my second match back in the Indies, doing that 6-man Aussie opener, incredible. And then Will Ospreay's probably the best wrestler on planet Earth right now.
Yeah,
he's just figured everything out. Like, and we used to always think Will was great, but he was missing something. You know what I mean? And like, you got to the point where you're like, oh yeah, you know, Will's going to go out there, he's going to have a killer match, right? Now he's having a killer match and he's telling incredible stories. It's like, I think he's figured out better than anybody on the planet right now, and I think that he's so much fun for me to watch, because I'm like, oh my God, I remember when this guy would just do something and ignore it almost afterwards. He would do something breathtaking and then just move on. You know what I mean? And people just didn't have a chance to understand what he had just done. Whereas now you're like, yes, absolutely. That's exactly what he's done. He's just done something that shouldn't be possible for anybody, let alone a guy who's 6'2" or whatever he is now. And, you know, he weighs like 230 or something. You know what I mean? So what he does, it shouldn't be possible, you know? So that was like that rebirth back onto the scene, and I think that really helped, like, light that fire into me, because like it let me know that yes, I can hang with guys who are literally the best, you know, in the business right now. And now I want to go out there and showcase myself, and I want to go and showcase that not only am I good enough to hang, but I'm good enough to lead the entire world when it comes to heavyweight wrestling. So yeah, there is a chip on my shoulder, a monkey in my back, a fire in my belly, whatever idiom or whatever you want to say about it, because I want to be the best. Because listen, I've been all over the world before I got at WWE. Then I got at WWE and I got all this experience. I got to learn under the legends like Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Finlay, who was my ultimate hero, and so many others. Like I'm literally leaving out so many names that I've worked with, because you know that's the beauty of that company, is there was just so much experience, so much ready information for you. And now you get to go back on the independents. You get to go and showcase to the younger guys, give them ideas, give them help. Like last night, I was in, where was it? Somewhere in Wisconsin. I was helping a bunch of lads there, and it's just, that's the joys of this business. You want the next group of lads to be even better than the lads before them. Yeah, and like that's what I love about it. And I love to get in there with the guys who, you know, these are the flavors of the month or the flavor of the year, and then you get to see how good they are. And I've been very blessed. A lot of the ones who are the flavors, they're the ones who you start thinking, yeah, these guys could be like super special, and that's what I'm really looking forward to. So yeah, there is a fire in my belly. You know, there is that drive, that hunger, because the talent level is so high right now, and there's so much competition that you just want to get in there and you want to be at it every single weekend. Yeah, you talk about that fire. I mean, we talk about, you know, I mean, I guess we're going to talk about sort of how your, you know, first 5 months of the year has been. But you've been everywhere. You've been traveling loads. You've been all over the place, really. I mean, like, does that fire also sort of help stoke that, like, get you through that, like, all that travel and all that, like, you know, all those matches that you have to get through? Does that help that? Oh, absolutely. Listen, I had this terrible flight to Germany recently, which I was questioning my sanity, pardon the pun, because I was like, why am I doing this? This is terrible. And then you land, you have a great experience, fun match, you meet all these young, hungry people, you have a lot of fun, you get talking to people who just love wrestling. And then you realize, okay, that's why I'm doing it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like, I could choose to stay local. I could choose to, to do whatever. But I wanted to be out there. I want to get all over the place. I want to get back over to Australia at some point. I want to go to Japan. There's so many things I want to do. And sadly, that means you have to travel. And thankfully, I do enjoy traveling. Are there days where I despise traveling to the end of the earth? Yes, there is. Of course, there is. But at the same time, like, it's a means to an end. And like, one of the things, the beautiful parts about wrestling is you have to be adaptable. And I left home at 18 years old, and I never looked back, because I knew I would have to be adaptable. I've tried to adapt to everywhere I've lived, everywhere I've worked, everything that I've done in my life, because that's the only way to succeed in this industry. And honestly, like, the best part of it is when you do travel, and you travel with people who you really enjoy, you enjoy talking to, and it completely changes the experience. And I was very lucky when I was in Britain back in the day. The people who I used to travel with, I've now went on to great things like the Coffee Brothers and so many others. They were the best to travel with when I came to the gyms and whatever else. And in America, I was traveling with Axel and Eric and everybody else. And so you realize, like, you surround yourself with like-minded people with great attitudes, and you'd be amazed at, it's very easy to do an 8-hour drive. Like the other day on Saturday night, oh my God, I was driving from between Detroit and Wisconsin, and we decided to do the 6-hour drive that night. And sadly, I went the wrong way, and I nearly took us towards the ferry across Lake Michigan, and added 2 hours onto our journey. But the boys were very gracious. They were lovely fellas, the two of them. So, and much respect to Flip Gordon and Jamie Stanley. Great pair of lads. We had a lot of fun traveling together. And thankfully they didn't chew me out too much. But that's the important part. You travel with the right people, then the hours go by really fast, and it ends up being a great experience, a positive experience. And that's I just had this weekend. I had so much fun with those lads. And that's the beauty of wrestling, is you get to meet, as I said, like-minded people, and people who just have so much passion for this industry. And yet have different opinions and different theories, and they like different wrestling than you do. So it can be a lot of fun, because then you get to learn and watch different things. It's one of the reasons why I love talking to the likes of Eddie Kingston or Chris Hero, because they have a different knowledge entirely than maybe I do or my friends do. So you end up watching something that from All Japan or something like that I've maybe watched once. And they never really gave too much thought to, and then they're able to tell you the full theory, the full story, the full history behind that match, and then suddenly you're like, oh my God, this match is absolutely insane. So it's so funny, like, the people you meet along the way, the journey that you have, and then the attitude and the enjoyment that people have towards wrestling is what makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned sort of that. I want to get into that, because we mentioned it sort of before we started recording the actual podcast about, how you've been a part of Control Your Narrative. And obviously, like we say, that's a company that at the minute has got very mixed reception on social media because of, the perceived beliefs or the actual beliefs of some of the people that run it. Is it the sort of thing you feel that, those sort of things should just be put by the wayside while we enjoy the wrestling?
Right, I come from Northern Ireland, so I don't give a shit about anybody else's politics, to be honest, because, I grew up in the middle of a civil war, so, like, why should I give a shit about what people are going to vote for, you know what I mean? And this is one of those things that, like, I think Twitter and stuff like that's got very fascist with their views, because I'm a liberal, and I'm starting to hit other liberals, you know what I mean? It's because this belief that everything has to be a certain way is wrong, that doesn't make sense to me, and, like, this perceived belief that certain people in Control Your Narrative are this, that, and the other. Well, I can tell you this: they're very, very good. From what I can see, they seem to be good people. You know what I mean? So I don't give a shit what their political agenda is or what politics they follow. I can't vote anyway. I'm not American. You know what I mean? So if I want to get into a political debate about Northern Ireland with somebody, then sure, I can do that if they really want. I don't want to do that. Jeez, you know what I mean? I haven't lived there since I was 18 either. So, but no, honestly, for me personally, I think over COVID and stuff like that, everybody was looking for things to really latch on to, and maybe there was a lot of boredom and stuff like that, and I get that. And certain issues got exploded for whatever reason. And don't get me wrong, the vitriol here in America is always going to be left versus right, red versus blue, whatever it is, and I get that. There's a bit of that in Britain as well,
yeah, of course.
The situation, yeah, of course, but. Listen, I have spent my life surrounded by people who believe differently than me. So I think Would I not be the problem if I was the one who wasn't willing to accept other people's beliefs? Absolutely, I'd be the problem. I know what I believe in. I know what my morality is. I know that everything I've put it out on social media, the things that I believe in, and like Control Your Narrative are still more than happy to use me and still more than happy to have me there. So it couldn't be that bad if they know that I'm a screaming liberal. You know what I mean? So, that's been my opinion of it. I've really enjoyed being around all the lads there. I really enjoyed being on the shows. I've enjoyed the message that they give to the guys who are coming through, the young, hungry guys. Like I genuinely love like the pre-show meetings and things like that because they're a team, they're a unit. They all speak to each other. They all try and hype each other. They all try and help each other. And I think that's amazing. Like listen, I worked for the biggest right-wing company on planet Earth in WWE, and nobody was bothered about it then, but they got bothered about perceived right-wing in CYN. Like, listen. I don't know what to tell people. Like, it seems to be one rule for one and a different rule for other when it comes to Twitter and stuff like that. So I'm not going to lie to you. I don't care anymore.
Yeah, it's a tough place, isn't it? It's a tough place to be, like, especially.
Listen. Yeah. No. I'm just saying, like, as I said to you before, like, I grew up in a very divided state, and like I made sure to try and surround my life with people who had different beliefs than me because, they're still good people. They just have different ideals. You know what I mean? And like that's fine. Like especially coming from Northern Ireland, you can be full of hatred, or you can be the opposite. And I always wanted to be the opposite because you don't know what people's life's going to be. You don't know what they've went through. That for their existence, their experiences. And I'm very blessed that my parents had friends who were of the opposite religion and believed differently than them. Because then I didn't grow up despising people for being born a certain religion, you know what I mean? And like that meant a lot in Northern Ireland. It did, and it still does to certain parts of the community. There's always going to be issues and stuff like that, but the only way we move forward is we realize we're still all human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's kind of embarrassing that people get so upset about what people say on Twitter or whatever else. And what's even funnier for me is people don't always realize that some of the things like some of the wrestlers say on Twitter or on Instagram, whatever else, might also be to try and get a reaction.
Yeah.
So that's one of the parts that I do wonder about. For as smart as fans can be, they can also be dumb as a post. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
But for me personally, this is just me, and like everybody else might believe differently. But I don't give a shit what other people's agendas are, politics are, as long as they're good.
Yeah.
If I can perceive them as good people, then by all means, then I'm more than happy to work with them.
No, and we go back to sort of you coming back to the Indies, whether it's America or in the UK. Obviously, I think over the pandemic and with speaking out happening during the pandemic as well, there was a lot of, I guess, uncertainty about the future, especially of indie wrestling and how it would come back. I mean, coming back to the Indies now, whether again it's in the UK or the US, how do you see maybe companies or wrestling, whether it's the fans or, away from the in-ring action, do you see that wrestling has changed on the indie circuit since before you signed for WWE?
In a way, yes, in that there's a lot of different people there and stuff like that now. Like, because a lot of people got signed, a lot of people moved on, people retired. But when it comes to stuff like speaking out and stuff like that, like, you just hope that a lot of these... a lot of the standards and practices and stuff like that the people seem to be trying to fix and stuff like that are for the greater good. That's what you hope for. But generally, like, for locker rooms and things like that, you hope that the people like do their very best to learn the full story when it comes to everything and make their judgments as best they can. And I think like with the way all that went down, like, I wasn't there. I was in America at the time. So you're only watching it from afar and you're hearing stories and whatever else. And then you find out that a bunch of stuff is people just trying to settle scores as well as the real issues and things like that. And you're like, oh my God. So that's what I'm just trying to say to everybody is just try and learn the full story before you make a full judgment on everything. And that's what I've tried to do. I was the way I saw it was, everybody deserves a second chance. We live in a redemptive society. Everybody should be able to make mistakes. I think it's incredible that, over the pandemic, people have decided to go through stuff people said 15 years ago, 10 years ago, and decide that that's what they are now. Like, I know I'm a very different person than I was 5 years ago, than I was 10 years ago, than I was 15 years ago, because I've been educated. Like, my sister is the LGBTQ plus representative for Bernardo's in Northern Ireland, and like I maybe wouldn't have my belief system if it wasn't for her. You know what I mean? Like, you know, maybe I'd be a lot more ignorant or whatever else. But I know that because of my experiences with my sister and with, you know, the community at large in Northern Ireland and in Scotland where I lived after, you know, it was able to shape who I am now as a person. But there's no guarantee that I was a great person 20 years ago when I was 16 years old. You know what I mean? 'Cause maybe I was ignorant, maybe I was whatever else. So, you know, should my life be over because when I was 16 years old, you know, I was ignorant? No, of course not. You know, you should be judged on who you are and what you say and what you do. And that's how I'm trying to live my life anyway. And that includes when I go on the indies and stuff like that. And I try to give everybody a chance. You know, I'll have a friend who'll say, "Oh, such and such is whatever." Like, well, I'll see it for myself. You know what I mean? And that for me is the key. What I have noticed is there seems to be a lot more. I think a lot more people who are a bit more in tune with mental health issues, which I think is great. You know, I learned a lot more about that in the last 10 years. You know, especially like, you know, in our industry with concussions and things like that as well. Like, there's a lot more education on how the brain works, you know, in a variety of ways. So I think it's a wonderful thing that, you know, that there's a lot of people are a lot more cognizant of mental health issues and stuff like that, and that is something that, like, I'm trying to educate myself on a lot more as I get older, and even from my own experiences of dealing with it, you know, in my own life and the people who I love and the people who I spend my time with, you know what I mean? So it's that's one thing I have noticed, and Progress, you know, are one of the companies that have really made a big issue to you know, to try and deal with that themselves. I know ICW have done something very similar, and you know, I have a lot of respect for that because, you know, 10 years ago there was nothing like that. You know, you were soft or you were weak, and the truth is you're not. You're probably stronger because you're actually willing to deal with your problems. You know what I mean? And that's something that, like, I'm much better educated about now than I was 10 years ago. So, and I hope to be even more educated on it in 5 years and 10 years time. And there's a lot of other social issues and stuff like that I'm hoping to learn more about. You know what I mean? Because, you know, sadly, you know, you grow up in a certain way, you deal with the problems that are in front of you. You don't really think about other people's problems. And social media, things like that are what makes you start being aware of other problems across the world. And that's one of the cool things about social media, you know what I mean? But one of the worst parts is, and you get people who'll go back and find stuff people had said, you know, 15 years ago. And I'm sorry, it's not the same. You're not the same person. If you can be the same person from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that is amazing. I'm actually flabbergasted by that. Because, you know, I know how much I've changed and how much, you know, my own morality and everything else has changed in the lot since I've grown up, you know, and everything I've been around and what I've done. So honestly, like, you know, I just hope that over the next few years, you know, we can show maybe a bit of forgiveness and a bit more education to move forward for everybody, because there's a lot of problems that could easily be dealt with with better education. You know, like, can we educate the younger guys coming through, the younger girls coming through? Can we do that? That would be a great start. Let's do that. Let's do our very best to try and help people, you know, who are maybe suffering in some way here and there. Let's do our very best to try and recognize other people's issues and see that, and instead of, like, you know, lambasting them or disrespecting them, you know, you actually try and help them. I think that's something that I never understood, why in this industry, like, we can be so very quick to judge people, because, you know, everybody's going through something. This is the most bizarre industry on the planet. It really is. It's full sport, entertainment. There's no retakes, no nothing else. And of course, there's going to be anxiety and there's going to be whatever else, because, you know, there's so much pressure on something that could be getting filmed for whatever reason. So you're hoping that you can be there to try and help anybody who's going through difficulties. And thankfully, there's a bunch of people who have stepped up. I know that Eddie Kingston, for example, has stepped up recently to help a lot of people in the industry. And I respect that, you know, because the only way we can all go forward is by recognizing that, you know, we all have faults, and we might be able to help somebody with theirs too. You know?
And again, going back to sort of, I guess, more positive, like, fun, you know, in-ring stuff for yourself, because we got very serious there, and it's good, it's important. But let's get back to more fun there. Coming back, we mentioned Luke Jacobs already, but in terms of getting back in the ring on the Indies, whether again it's the UK or the US, is there anyone who, like, you know, if someone came up to you and was like, who are the ones to watch at the moment, the young up-and-comers, who you've either faced or haven't faced yet but want to face, who in your mind are those guys and girls?
That is a great question. So I really like LJ Cleary in coming out of Dublin. Him and I keep running into each other at shows, and we actually finally wrestled in Cork in Ireland. It was the first time I was in Cork in 30 4 years. My mother told me, and we got the first time we got to wrestle. We kind of done something at a Rumble before, but he's a smashing talent there. There's definitely real potential with LJ. He's so young as well, and he's already got so much experience. So I don't want to put him over too much, But no, he's somebody to look out for everybody. In Scotland, there's quite a few coming through. I was really happy because I was worried for ICW because so many people left. You're talking about myself, Noah, Mickey, Drew, Shah, the Coffees, Noah. There's just I said Noah twice. That's how much I like him. Kenny Williams. There was just you're talking about the guts of maybe the entire card. Left ICW because of NXT UK, NXT, everywhere else as well. Like Joe Hendry went to Ring of Honor and TNA and stuff. There's just so many lads who ended up all over the place. But thankfully, there's a whole batch of them coming through now. I don't want to put over Kez Evans too much, but he's a very talented champion. He's an incredible villain. I think that there's something that could be really, really good there. There's Daz Black and there's Leighton. I'm trying to remember Leighton's second name. He's really good actually. But Leighton Buzzard, yes, he's fantastic. There's something. He's got something I think him and LJ also have some great matches and stuff. So I'm actually very excited for a bunch of them. And there's even I'm actually leaving out a bunch of them. There was I remember I wrote down 4 or 6 a few weeks ago who I would like to wrestle and whatever else. And there really is. There's also KOE was a tag team. I trained one of them years ago. And his brother started not long after. And they've got something to them. They're still on their way at the minute, but they've got a decent bit of talent. There could be definitely something there. I'm hoping they get in there with the likes of the Kings of the North and really try to take it up to the next level. But yeah, honestly, I'm missing out on a bunch of lads. By the way, I feel really guilty.
No, sure, no. I get that. Yeah, I put you on the spot a little bit. I put you on the spot.
But in progress, no, it was really cool. Dan Maloney is somebody who I think I've just seen a massive growth in him. I think he's I think he has all the tools to succeed.
Yeah.
I think his time will come very soon. His tag partner Darice as well is really sick at what he does. Made a brilliant tag match at that last show I was at there for Progress. It was outrageous actually against Sunshine Machine. 2 lads who I'd seen before as well. They've really grown. Couldn't believe how bloody tall both of them were actually. They've literally feel like they've grown physically as opposed to in ring as well.
Both for sure.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, I was definitely taller than both of these guys. What has changed? Am I getting shorter? And then obviously Warren Banks as well. It's the first time I'd seen him, and I thought he was a cracker as well. So honestly, and I'm missing out on the likes of Karen and Warren, whatever else. Who I remember from previous, as in under previous gimmicks and stuff. So there's just so many lads in that scene as well. So honestly, I'm very excited going forward because that is a huge chunk of people who I'm looking forward to getting in the ring with and looking forward to watching as well. More importantly, and that's kind of the cool part of wrestling right now. Is there's an opportunity for me to get in there with people who are desperate to move on to the next level, and I'm hoping that I can give 1 or 2 of them that the kick up the arse that I got from the likes of a Drew Galloway or from a Robbie Brookside at different parts in my career, So fingers crossed that, for some of these lads that, I'll be able to get in there with them and give them a good hiding. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we all want to see, right? That's what we all want to see. We need that, right? Brilliant. Well, Damo, we've got one final feature here on the podcast. It's called Anatomy of a Pro Wrestler. And this is more about you. This is a shoot about you. So I'm going to list off a few questions and you let me know what comes to mind. So the first one is my favorite pre-match meal.
Oh crap! I hate wrestling on a full belly. So it has to be something really basic. I'm maybe a chicken and rice would be the kind of best thing because if I'm bloated going out there oh my god, I feel terrible and I'm already a large man. So maybe. Probably the best thing that I would have before actually wrestling would be oats or something like that. If I had oats and maybe I eat it every day. Oats and protein powders I start every day, right?
Nice.
You could tell that I'm actually Irish by my boring diet, So that would be my ideal preparation would be maybe oats or it would be chicken and rice or something like that. I can't really eat anything heavier. I was on those 3 shows of the weekend and the fellas were all this meat. It was incredible. It was all prepared by Dudes Gourmet. It was this cracking guy on Instagram if anybody wants to learn a bit more about food preparation. But I couldn't eat it before the shows. Like, it's just like I can't. It's too heavy, you know.
Yeah.
Like steaks and salmon. I was like, oh, that's all incredible, you know. Like, and I can't eat it, you know.
Well, that's all right because we'll get on to the good stuff now because the next one is my favorite post pinfall pig out.
Oh, that's a good one, actually. Christ. So I'll tell you what. When I was in NXT, and we were filming in Full Sail, and on the way out, there would be a Wendy's, right?
Nice.
And Wendy's do this Dave's triple. So
yeah.
triple,
huge, ridiculous burger. Ridiculous.
So good. So that would be my post NXT meal.
Nice. That's a good choice. It's a ridiculous burger. It says so much about American fast food that's even a burger. Like,
and you're struggling to finish it, but you're like, this is so good. I'm a Wendy's guy. If anybody like who moans to me about burgers, I'm a Wendy's guy. That's my burger of choice.
Nice. That's a controversial one, I think. But as you're in America so much, I think it's allowed. Because over here, it would just be a weird choice. Like, you'd be like, why? There's like 2 Wendy's in the entire country.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you'd probably have to travel 6 hours to get a Wendy's somewhere.
Well, the final, it's not all food-based, I promise. The final food-based one, though, is just my favourite food. You know, there's no matches, there's nothing to prepare for. It's not post-match, pre-match. Just in general, your favourite food.
So my sister makes a great Thai green curry.
Nice.
I love it. My mother makes so my mother is an incredible cook, by the way. This is everybody always says it, right? But like it's probably the thing I miss the most is probably my mom's cooking. But she did this brilliant pepper chicken that is forever ingrained in my brain, and I've tried recreating it to no success.
It's never the same.
Whatsoever.
Never the same.
But if I'm being fully honest, it is British Indian food is what I miss the most.
Love a good Indian.
But like it's not quite the same here. So when I go home, the first thing we do is we try and get some sort of tandoori or whatever else. Some Peshwari naan because I'm obsessed with Peshwari naan.
Yeah, it's a good choice.
Whatever curry I can get, you know what I mean. And that would be me. That's me in heaven. Like I'm very lucky. Like my best friend in Northern Ireland, Chris, who got me into wrestling. He's been with me we've been friends since I was 11 weeks old. So that gives you an idea that he's stuck with me for life.
Yeah.
And the first thing we always do is we always go and try and get a British Indian when I'm back in Belfast. And then when I'm in Glasgow, you know, we used to have a brilliant place for after ICW that sadly closed down. We're all devastated. But we always try and get a good Indian when we're at home. So that's something that I genuinely love. And I think like the British Indian is just slightly better than the American Indian. Just, you know, different flavors and the different style, you know what I mean? But honestly, that's one of the things that I always try to go out my way for is especially a Peshwari naan. Like Peshwari naan and curry sauce is just that's so good.
No, I'm actually upset that I asked you the question now because now I just really want an Indian. I've already had dinner, but I just really want a curry now.
Of course.
Might have to get one later. The next one is the song that gets me the most hyped.
Oh, that's great, actually. So I'm a massive Tool fan.
Nice.
I've been a fan of Tool for like over 20 years. A friend of mine from home, Peter Clark, and he got me into Tool when I was like 16 or 17. I've just been obsessed. I've seen them a bunch of times. But 46 and 2 by them is one of my favorite songs. Now, it's not the one that I get hyped up for. There's a variety, but Sober is probably my favorite Tool song. Them or Rage Against the Machine, I'm obsessed with, and that always helped me. And obviously, like, you know, I was big into rap music growing up and stuff like that. So, you know, NWA and Eminem. There's a bunch of them that I always tried to listen to, like to get myself going. But there was a really cool Kanye West song, No Church in the Wild, which I've been really obsessed with lately. It's been out for like 15 years, but like I just adore it. So you know, it's one of the ones I love to get myself ready for. Nice.
Well, you already may have answered the next question because the next question is my favorite band of all time. It doesn't have to be a band; it can be a solo singer. But favorite music artist of all time.
Well, Tool, Rage Against the Machine would be the two bands that I think. Like I used to be really into Metallica as a kid when I was a drummer before, and I played in like metal bands and punk bands and stuff like that. But like I think as I've got older, I've been more obsessed with with the lyrics and stuff like that than I used to be when I was young. So now it's Tool and Rage are the two that I think I listen to pretty much everything on that 8-hour journey that we had the other day. So.
Yeah, you got the time to listen to it, don't you? Then you go through the whole back catalogue.
Plenty of time. I think the boys are probably sick fucking listening to it, but it was fine.
Brilliant. Well, the next one is again. It could be the same answer because it's the best gig I've ever been to.
Oh shit! So that's a good one actually. So speaking of Metallica, I actually saw Metallica play the 20-year anniversary of the Master of Puppets album,
Nice.
2006. That was pretty sick. I got to see Prodigy that weekend as well, and Prodigy were one of my favorite bands growing up, because they were huge in the UK. But my favorite gig I ever went to is I saw Massive Attack in the O2 Academy in Glasgow, and I've been a Massive Attack fan since I was a child. Like they just were so sick. Like I genuinely love, like, slightly more easy listening, but you can get hyped up for it or you can chill out with it. That's what I love about Massive Attack. And I'd say to anybody, if they're looking for music, like sometimes old is new, you know what I mean? But Massive Attack was probably my favorite gig. But I've been to so many that I adore. Seeing Tool for the first time was outrageous. 2003, saw them again 2005 when they were doing the 10,000 days. I think it was 2000. It was 2000. And 10,000 Days came out, and I got to see them again when NXT were playing at the Download Festival. So it was cool that I managed to see them a bunch of times. We went to see my wife and I went to see Coldplay in November. I wasn't a massive.
Yeah, that's
Coldplay
very
fan.
different. That's
no, but honestly, I wasn't a massive Coldplay fan, but Nicky's got really into them, so you start listening to them, you're like, actually, fucking hell, they're really good. So, and the gig was outrageous. It was amazing.
Nice,
we went over to Seattle. They're the other side of America to see them, and they were absolutely outstanding live. So we're going to go and see them again in June. So
nice, you're converted now. You're converted.
I am. I totally am. I think I was one of those people who was happy to bury them, in the mid 2000s because they got heat for no reason.
Yeah.
And now I realize that was really misplaced because they're actually really.
Now you're
really
don't you dare bury Coldplay.
No, I'll fight somebody now. Fuck. But so yeah, I'm very lucky. I've seen a bunch of great gigs, but those are some of the ones that definitely came to mind.
Nice, some good choices for sure. The next one is the movie that I chose, The Locker Room.
Movie I'd show, The Locker Room. Oh my god, that is a great one. So my favorite movie of all time is The Matrix.
Nice.
Because I watched it when I was 15 or 16, and that was it. I was hooked. I was like, oh my god. I didn't really like any of the sequels, but I kind of liked the new one was fun because it was kind of more of a homage to the original Matrix. I think Blade 1, for some reason, I just love. It's so dumb, but I think it's amazing. But if I was to sit down and show people, I think I'd probably go with. I love The Departed. It's such a fun movie. It's probably Scorsese's worst movie, right? And it's totally ripped off Infernal Affairs, the Hong Kong trilogy of movies. But I adore it. For some reason, every line, every part, I've watched it maybe 15 times. It's just so good. But I'm also big into all the Marvel stuff, like Captain America 2, Winter Soldier is probably my favorite Marvel movie. It just really, it was like a thriller meets Marvel. It was so I loved it. But I pretty much adored everything that's came out from Marvel. I just watched Moon Knight the other day as well. It was pretty badass. So it was actually Nikki loved it even more than me actually, which is quite funny because it was me who I kind of got her into all that stuff. She wasn't really into sci-fi, as she used to call it.
It's the reverse of the Coldplay situation.
It is, she got me in, that's the beauty of a good relationship is compromise, understanding, and I think we are definitely the highest beneficiaries of that. So
amazing, brilliant. The next one is my favorite way to relax.
That's a good one. I think for me it's that is tough. What is my favorite way to relax? I think honestly, is just Nicky and I talking crap. I think is probably the best.
Nice.
And then we'll whatever we watch or whoever we hang out with. I think because our schedules are so crazy, the most important thing is when we get time together.
Yeah, that bit of downtime. Yeah.
And honestly, just hanging out and talking shit is the best part. It is honestly the best part of what I do is we get to share our own experiences from the roads that we go on. But other than that, I like going to the gym and stuff like that. Listening to music, chilling, watching whatever crap I want to watch. But the way, if it was the opposite, which way would I want to get hyped up? It's to watch football. You know what I mean? I think that's
But
the opposite of relaxing.
I mean, depending on the situation, that can be like an angry hype, though, can't it? That can be like
that's kind of you were saying about what music gets me hyped up. I should probably just watch Man United before I want to go and work out. I'd probably get my best workout.
Well,
you know?
see, this is the thing I was sort of scared to bring up with you, because I'm a Brighton fan, and we sort of tanked you last week.
Yep, give us a right good scalping, to be honest, and we're good for it. You should have beat us probably by more than 4.
It's been a bad season for United, hasn't it? It's been a bad season.
Honestly, just down in tools. You know, people hate to say it, but they did. They down tools. They down tools to the previous manager. Then they brought in an interim manager, which never works.
Yeah.
You know, it works in relegation battles and stuff like that, but it doesn't really work in
not if you're chasing promote top European football.
No, it was a bad idea. There's nothing against Ralph Rangnick. I'm sure if he had like a pre-season with the boys, he could decide who he could ship out, who he could bring in. But with that current group of guys, there's no passion, there's no determination. You know, they'll pretend to try again under Ten Hag, and until they all retire, then it'll be the same results.
Do you think he won't turn the corner with him?
I hope he does, but he'd need to get rid of a lot of bad attitudes there. Honestly, like the team has been built poorly from the top down.
Yeah.
And what they're trying to do is they're trying to restructure a lot of things. So it's going to take a bit of time, and if they give Ten Hag time, great, no problem. Hopefully in 3 or 4 years we could have an interview and we could be talking about a renaissance for United. But they're always going to sit around that 4th mark. They're going to buy a big name player to try and pacify the fans, and then be surprised that it doesn't work again. Lather, rinse, and repeat. They'll get into Champions League probably in a couple of years' time, and then they'll be out of the Champions League again. And until the Glazers finally decide, okay, we're going to sell, then it's going to just be the same, because they don't have best in class anywhere across the board level, nothing across the upper management level, and then it all filters down onto the pitch. You know, and if you're not willing to invest in those things, then you're just going to be left behind by the teams that do. You know? Chucking money at players is great, but for us, it's been square pegs, round holes, or is it round holes, square pegs?
I think it's square pegs, round holes, isn't it? Yeah, but you're right. No, absolutely.
But that's what United has been since Fergie left. Even when Fergie was there, his final couple of years, you know, it was noticeable that like he wasn't quite able to bring in people. And then boom, suddenly he was able to bring in Van Persie and stuff like that, and you're like, it seems more like a band-aid, a band-aid.
Yeah, it's all been short-term fixes, hasn't it? It's all been short-term.
It was 29, of course it was short-term, But then the next manager comes in, and he's on to, I feel, it doesn't matter who it was, it could have been anybody.
Yeah.
It was incredibly difficult to try and replace Sir Alex, and David Gill, because David Gill left, who was our managing director as well. So, a lot changed all at the same time. So United are going to probably face the same kind of thing as Liverpool until the 30 years of waiting until there's going to be something that changes,
or until they get you in the locker room, right? They call you in to put the fear of God in them.
Honestly, with this group of lads, like they could, I think that they'd go immediately on social media and complain about it, and then hopefully we get the boo-hoo from the fans, because I think honestly, like United just maybe have the worst type of people, like people who haven't ever won anything, and then they have maybe a bunch of guys there who kind of expect to win every game without trying, and like that, it's just a bad combination. You're hoping that 2 or 3 things can change, but until it does, it's just going to be lather, rinse, and repeat. Sadly.
Yeah. No, I think I agree. Even as an outsider,
them though, because I am, a bit masochistic or sadistic, whatever it is, when it comes to football.
I think we all are, aren't we? We all are.
I lived through the good times, and I've been a fan since 1988 when we weren't great, and then we got very good, then we got incredible, and now we're
not so great again. No, I get it. That's the thing. Like, people assume that I'm almost like a glory supporter because I'm a Brighton fan, but I've been following it since we were in like League 1, League 2, and you're like, well, now you just enjoy it now. Like things like beating Man United 4-0. You're like, well, I remember when we lost to like Stockport County. Like,
exactly. Well, and listen, the beauty of Brighton right now is like, if you guys could get a better goal scorer, you might actually be pushing for Europe, and that's the coolest thing, because Graham Potter is doing some
great manager. He'd be great at United or Tottenham or Arsenal, like anywhere you put him.
You hope that he can stay another couple of years with us no matter what happens, because he's built something really special there. Because like realistically, like even like that Moises Caicedo fella, I know that a lot of people were tracking him, but it's so genius putting him in there next to Basuma, because that's 2 lads who win the ball, and they aren't afraid to distribute it as
Yeah.
well. So like it's a good midfield. Obviously, you're missing out on a really top striker. And
Yeah.
I love Aaron Connolly, obviously, because he's Irish, but like he's not a great number 9. You know what I mean?
No, he's not. He's got a little attitude
these are
problem as well, Connolly as well. He's got a bit of a. But yeah, like I mean, if you guys want to sell us Rashford, I'd take Rashford up front as our striker.
I just hope that Rashford can go back to being who he was. Like I love him as a person, and what he's done for his local community and for England as a whole has just been really special. But like on the pitch, his head's down, and he's not the fella who burst onto the scene at 18 years old. So I'm hoping that he can refine his form. But again, like so many leaks are coming out of that camp, and a lot of it's coming from his camp. And I'm hoping that he can get his head together and get what we love back on the pitch. He was one of the best left wingers in the planet at one point.
Yeah, for sure.
And now you're like,
who's this? Yeah,
Anthony Alanga's taking his place because he works harder.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Well, I always enjoy a bit of football talk. We could have a whole podcast about this, to be honest. We'll have to get you back in the new season to talk about Man United and Ten Hag. But
hopefully there's better reasons to talk to get crying about Man United.
Can only hope, right? Can only hope. Getting back to the questions at hand, the next one is a bit of a throwback. It's my first job.
My first job, I worked in, this is hilarious because I'm Irish, I worked in a potato factory, the Glens of Antrim Potato Factory.
Nice.
I was 14 years old for $2.75 an hour. And that was, you do 14-hour shifts. And as a kid, like, you were just dog's body, you do whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
And myself and one of the boys I went to school with, Lawrence, would be under the big vats of potatoes, like knocking out the underside. When I think back of that, it's probably like a health and safety nightmare, to be honest. But at the time, it was fine. So I did that. I was a tiler's apprentice briefly, and then what did I do when I was 16? Did I start working on bars at 16? I think maybe it was 17. I was in bars. I did a bunch of other jobs. I worked in a concrete factory.
Nice.
For a while, and then I worked in a photo development shop, which is pretty cool.
All over the place.
I did a lot of crazy.
Jack of all trades,
Honestly, I was one of those people. I just loved working. I loved getting money. You know what I mean? Like a lot of my friends would, let's go in the piss, whatever else, and I'd be the first. I'd be working, whatever. And then like I when I went over to Scotland, I was going to go over there to train, but I had to, to get a job, and I got a job in a bar and stuff like that. I was also in college as well, so but like I got a job in a bunch of bars. I did bar work on and off for like 6-7 years or whatever it was. So that was my brief employment history while I was trying to become a professional wrestler. But
nice.
It started with the potato factory, and thankfully, well, let's hope it never comes back to that.
Brilliant. The next one is my greatest fear.
Greatest fear? That's interesting. I don't know, actually. I mean, I guess it's probably more like along the lines of like, I don't know. That was tough. Liverpool dominating for the next 10 years probably be up there.
And that's a very real fear to have.
I feel like I'm living it right now. So I'd have to come back to that one because like I'm thankfully like I'm not I don't have too many fears.
That's good.
I have plenty of things I dislike, but I mean I don't think there's anything I'm too. Obviously, my family and all these kind of things, and their safety and all that health and whatever else. But other than that, no, I think I'm a pretty lucky guy.
Nice. We just need to get Liverpool off the top of the table, then, don't we? Yeah. Or even challenging.
That is a living nightmare.
Next one is my favourite wrestling match ever. It can be one you've been in or one you've watched, whichever.
Wow, that is great. So I've got a couple of weird ones. So let me think. So what am I think I almost like have favorites for companies and stuff. I've obviously I was a tape trader and I was doing all this as I was trying to become get into wrestling. I became obsessed with it,
Yeah.
Let me see. So I genuinely adored. There's about 3 or 4 matches that Nigel McGuinness and Daniel Bryan had, or Bryan Danielson, sorry. So I'm a big fan of what they did. So there's one especially one that they had in Liverpool where Nigel headbutts the post, which it's the only part I don't like of the match, but it was an insane match. But they had a bunch, like a great series of matches that I adored. I'm trying to think. One of my favorite WWE matches was actually Rob Van Dam versus John Cena, one night stand.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah.
there was botches and there was things that didn't go right, but I just adored everything about the match.
It's one of those matches where the crowd makes it, doesn't it? Like that crowd
100%,
makes that match.
100%. Like I just adored it. Like, and listen, I was there live for Undertaker Shawn Michaels too. I was there live and I got to see it live and experience it in Phoenix. It was incredible. So you know, I've been very lucky. I've seen some really, really, really cool stuff. But matches that I did, my favorite matches that I did, that's tougher because like the matches that I did, like I genuinely hate all my matches. But insofar as you know, afterwards going, oh, okay, that worked out pretty good. I guess that 6-way ladder match, the North American Championship, the New Orleans takeover was pretty cool. That's the cursed match apparently. But that was a lot of fun because we did our very best to try and make everybody shine. And the praise we got after was awesome because I remember one of the things that we really tried to focus on for all of us was like, okay, everybody climbs up ladders really dumb and slow while they're waiting for the next spot. So why don't we just climb up, and if we get the belt, it's somebody, you know, it's whoever doesn't stop you's fault. And that's what we tried to do. And like, I think it kind of came across a couple of times in the match where like people would be sprinting up the ladder. And I really loved that because like, I hadn't really seen that much.
Yeah, it's always the slow build, isn't it? It's like no one climbs a ladder like that.
I hate the slow climb.
Yeah.
Like, but don't get me wrong, if you're scared of heights, that's fine. You know, like I don't like heights that much myself. So it was, but I loved it because guys were scurrying up the ladder and other ones would have to come and stop them because we said, okay, if we get it and you get the belt, you get the belt.
Yeah.
And that's the decision we made. And I loved that because that really helped us tell the story we wanted to tell, like the frantic nature of a ladder match, but also with what we felt was a decent psychology. Now, was there parts of the match that we could? Of course there was. There's stuff we could have changed and whatever else. But like, I was pretty proud of the boys for what they did at the time.
Yeah, that's a great match. No, great call. Yeah, great.
It's a lot of fun, and like, you know, it announces Adam, you know, to NXT really, like, you know, as a top singles guy, and it was pretty cool. So, you know, a lot of cool things happened off the back of that. You know what I mean? So and Ricochet and EC3 both making their debut. You know, there was a lot that was riding on it for a lot of people. You know what I mean? And myself and Lars, you know, being the two big guys, you know, it was a lot of fun. Like, and like, there was just so much talent, like from all the boys in the match. Everybody put together all the stuff. And like, was there disagreement? Sure, of course there was. There always is. But like, we did well to try and get it all together, and everybody looked as good as they could. And we had some really dumb spots, and the stuff that we actually didn't use is probably for the best. But even with, and this is the part that had nothing to do with me, but the lads fixed one of the ladders broke at the end of the match, and the boys did a brilliant job to try and fix it and move on. And I was really proud of them because like, that's really hard.
Yeah,
that is really, really hard. Because it was a real thing, you know.
Yeah, it's such a crucial time as well.
Legit broke. Legit broke. You know, what else can you do? So fair play to the boys for covering it and fixing it and being able to move on.
Yeah,
it was really cool. And like that, I've got a lot of respect for them because, listen, like, it's WWE, you don't expect things like that to go wrong, but it's a fucking ladder, and somebody's went through it. So, you know, of course it's going to break it. You know, so it's like, that's the coolest part of the talent who I was in there with. They were able to fix it on the fly, and good for them. And that's one of the coolest parts because, as I say, like, it wasn't anything I fixed. It was something that they fixed, and I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, nice. Some good calls there. Some great matches. The next one is only a few left. The next one is, of course, the obligatory My Dream match. If you still have one out there.
Honestly, like, dream match would have been like Shawn Michaels or Fit Finlay, from, you know, years, because Fit Finlay's my ultimate mega hero, and Shawn Michaels I think would be probably the best story I could tell with somebody. But dream match for now, for people who I haven't wrestled yet, that is a good one. Oh my, because honestly, there's just a million and more.
Too many, right? Yeah.
Who I want to wrestle, but like, I'd love a singles match with Ospreay. I think that would be something cool, and that's within the realms of possibility.
Yeah.
I'd love to wrestle Tanahashi again. I wrestled him for Rev Pro, but like, I'd love to do it again. I just adored him as a wrestler anyway. So I think I'd love to do it again.
Nice.
Trying to think who else I'd love to really get in there with. Like, Daniel Bryan is one of, I keep saying Daniel Bryan. Bryan Danielson is one of my ultimate mega favorites that I've ever. I only worked him once in WWE. We did a multi-man match, and you barely get in there with him. So I'd love to wrestle him would be outrageous, to be honest. because I think he could kick my ass and we could tell a hell of a story as well. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah, honestly, there's just like we're at a brilliant period in life where there's just so many talented wrestlers, and like it's you could put me in against like anybody on any card right now, and they'd probably be incredible wrestlers. You know what I mean? And that's. I wrestled a fella Kevin Blackwood the other week in Defy, and he was great. I wrestled Flip Gordon on Friday there, and like he was amazing.
Flip's great.
You know, it's one of those things. It's like, you know, no matter where I go, I seem to be wrestling people who are really good. So I'm like, oh, this is great.
Always got a good match lined up. Always got a good match.
Oh, I'll take it. Oh no, how terrible.
Awesome. Well, you only got a couple more. The next one is my favourite place in the world.
Oh wow, that is tough. So to wrestle in, my favourite venue is the York Hall in London.
Classic, yeah.
Green. I adore that venue. My favourite place to be. So Nikki and I had an amazing holiday in Rome years ago when we were very poor. It was like 2009 or something like that, and it was amazing. It was just one of the best experiences of my life. But realistically, probably Glasgow is one of my favourite places to be. I lived there for 6 years. I had so many friends, and obviously now I have family there. You know, for Nikki, my my adopted family. You know, or by law anyway. So the family there, so plenty of friends. So you know, it's a place that I grew to love was Glasgow. But yeah, honestly, like from a wrestling perspective, like there's nothing cooler than, you know, some of the towns you're in, like all across California, New York, all these places. You know what I mean? Like Houston, like I'm trying to go all these giant places like New Orleans and all these, you know, giant mega cities that just these giant stadiums that you wrestle in. And for me, like getting to wrestle here in Orlando in front of 80,000 people at WrestleMania was like never in my wildest dreams did I think that would be a possibility.
You know, like a mind blown type thing. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, yeah, other than that, like, you know, we got very lucky with a bunch of the takeover crowds and stuff like that, and you're obsessed with what they were giving you. I remember, so I'm a fan of Orlando Magic, and we got to do the takeover Orlando. Was in the Amway Arena here in Orlando, and it was outrageous. And I just remember the crowd being so cool. And then for me, you know, I was a fan of Orlando Magic from 1993, so I was a big fan of Shaq and Penny, and I followed them ever since. So living here, like I go and see them as much as I can. They suck at the minute, but, you know, it's fun. It's fun going because, you know, it's the memories more than anything else.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was one of my favorite experiences, was wrestling in Orlando, because it was a sold out Amway Center, and they were just so hot. We opened the show as well. We had this 4-on-4 against Roddy, Chris Hero, Ruby, and Sean Spears, and we just had such a good time.
Yeah,
the crowd was just. It was the first time Sanity had teamed up, all four of us together. So honestly, that's a bunch of experiences there. Like, I think I'm terrible at answering questions.
No, that's fine. That's great. I love it. I love a good segue as well. It's brilliant. When we come to the final one, and it's again, you may have already mentioned it because you just did, but it's my dream holiday destination.
So I've been very blessed that I've managed to get like all over the world. I've never been to Japan, so that is something that like I'd like to go to either as a rep, probably more importantly as a wrestler, but I'd like to go there even as a tourist.
Yeah, you can always do both, can't you? You can always do both.
Oh, hopefully, you know, that'll happen one day. But I think for Nikki and I, one of our, like, I definitely want to go to Switzerland. I've never been to Switzerland.
Love Switzerland. I've got family out in Switzerland, and it's beautiful.
There you go. So I want to get up into the Alps. You know, I want to really experience it. It's one of the places that like So I'm a big fan of the Tour de France and stuff like that. So I follow the cycling as much as possible. And sometimes if they're in, you know, the Tour de Suisse or whatever else, and I'll be watching just like mesmerized, going, oh, I need to get there at some point, you know. And France is, you know, a place that I've been a million times, but like I could see myself living there one day. It's just such a wonderful country. Like, but I think Switzerland. If you're putting a gun to my head right now, it is America. It would be Switzerland. I think.
Switzerland, Switzerland. I can back is a great place. It's incredible over there.
There you go. You've been there, you bastard.
Yeah, no, it's great. You know, you'll love it over there. You got to go, but it is stunning. It really is.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Well, Big Damo, thank you so much for coming on the Grapple Theory podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been great having you on.
Thankfully, I've got a sore throat from staying up all night the other day on an 8-hour drive. So thankfully, my voice box held out. So that was the main thing.
Yeah, couldn't tell. No, you couldn't tell. You hit it well.
Hit it. Work,
hit it well. Well, your voice box has only got one more thing to do, because we always end by giving our guest a little bit of promo time to close on. So whether it's this coming weekend from after this goes out for Super Strong Style, or whether it's while you're in America or while you're back here in the UK, wherever you're at, why is Big Damo going to steal the show for the rest of 2022?
Well, there's no guarantee I'm going to steal a show, because everybody's so bloody talented these days. But what I will say is I'm going to do my very best. As I said before, I've got that chip on my shoulder, that fire in my belly, to prove myself as the #1 heavyweight on planet Earth. And the joy and the nervousness of trying to make that happen means I'm going to have to push myself week in, week out, no matter if I'm in the likes of Pittsburgh or Florida, wherever else I am in America, if I'm in London, I'm in Glasgow, if I'm in Dublin, wherever I'm going to be. If I'm in Belfast, my hometown, I'm going to put everything on the line. I put my body on the line every time I wrestle. I'm an idiot. I throw myself at people, do my very best to get the W's, and I'm going to keep doing that, because I've loved this since I was 4 years old, and I'm going to continue to love this until the day I have to sadly put it away and stop doing it. So over the next while, what you're going to be seeing a Big Damo who's motivated, who's really desperate to put everything he can into every single match. So whether I'm in America, Europe, if I'm in Australia, Japan, wherever we're going to be, and hopefully other places that are about to get announced very shortly, I'm going to put everything in the line to make sure that you're entertained as best as possible. You can follow me at Damo Mackle on Instagram and Twitter, and you'll get to see where I'm going to be week in, week out. I do my very best to update, because I'm absolutely terrible at social media. But I will try and let everybody know. I know this is coming out just before Super Strong Style, and everything that I want to do in Progress, I want to make sure I can get over the line and be a success at Progress. So if you're going to be there at Super Strong Style, know that I'm going to be there to put on bangers, okay, and put everybody away. So that is my plan for Super Strong Style, and I'm very excited for what's next outside. So
Brilliant, beautifully put.